Introduction for consumer behavior and economic distribution. Consumer behavior in microeconomics explain how individual or household make choice about what to buy based on needs, wants, income, preference, and prices. It helps business understand what customers want. Economic distribution explain how money and resources are shared in a society. It helps government make fair policies like taxes and public services. Both concepts are important to help business grow and create a fair society. Finally, these two factors are very important to us to know because we can know how to apply this theory in our life. Besides that, we need to understand this concept so that it is easier to apply in our life.
Theory of consumer behavior. What is consumer behavior? So, consumer behavior is study of how individuals make decisions to spend their resources on consumption. It is involves what they buy, why, when, where, and how often they buy. It also helps business understand consumer preferences and improve their marketing. Secondly, utility analysis. So, utility analysis is satisfaction or pleasure a consumer gets from consuming goods or services. It helps consumer make a choice. It can be measured in utils, imaginary units of satisfaction. So, there are two types of utility, which is total utility and marginal utility. For example, consumer rate good or service for 5 out of 10. Thirdly, total utility. It is a satisfaction from consuming a certain number or units. It is increased as more units are consumed. Total utility curves rises when eventually levels off. They have two formula, which is single product consume formula. UC equal U1 plus U3. And multiple product consume formula is TUN equal EX plus UY plus U. Marginal utility. It is additional satisfaction that consumer gain from consuming one more unit or a good or services. They are given two formula, which is MUS equal to TUX over QX and MUN equal TUN minus TUN minus 1. Fifth, law of diminishing marginal utility. So, this is we can define as more units are consumed, marginal utility decrease. Each extra unit adds less satisfaction than the previous one. It is explained why the consumer eventually stop buying more of the same product. Other than that, this is the key to understanding consumer choices and demand. Consumer equilibrium of cardinal approach and ordinal approach. For this topic, they are divided by two, which is cardinal and ordinal approach. So, what is cardinal approach? Cardinal approach is we can assume utility can be measured in absolute terms. It can be measured in utils. So, what is ordinal approach? Okay, ordinal approach is slightly different than cardinal because the utility cannot be measured in numbers but only ranked in order or preference.
Budget line. Budget line is show all the combination product that the consumer can buy with a limited income and constant price. For easy to understand, it is a line the spread that separate what is possible to buy and what are not possible to buy for a consumer. It shows all possible combination of two goods that customer can buy based on their income or price. For budget line formula, we have price of good X, quantity of good X plus price of good Y, quantity of goods Y equals consumer monetary income. This is budget line graph example. This graph, we can now y-axis show the highest number of Y goods you can buy, x-axis show the highest number of X goods you can buy. The blue line from point A to point B show all the combination of X and Y goods you can buy using your full budget. That's we call budget line. If the consumer income or price of good X and Y are changed, the budget line will also change. There are two changes in budget line. First, we have change in consumer income. Second, we have change in the price of good. In the change in the price of goods, we have three situations. First, price of good X change. Second, price of good Y change. And third, both of price goods X and Y change. Move to consumer equilibrium. Consumer equilibrium happens when some consumer maximize their satisfaction utility with the limited income and the price is constant. In other words, the consumer is in situation where the consumer cannot change the pattern how them spend to get more satisfaction without over the budget. This is one of consumer equilibrium graph. If the consumer is rational, consumer will choose the highest indifference curve possible. In graph above, the indifference curve in point C13 are the highest level utility compared to I1 and I2, but point C is unattainable because of the budget constraint is outside the budget line PQ. The possible combination will be point A, B, and E, which converge with the budget line PQ. Since point A and B are on difference I1, consumer just maximize the utility at point E, where the indifference curve I2 is tangent to the budget line PQ and PQ. Ending, consumer be in equilibrium at point E with XE and YE quantity.
Wages is a payment made by a business to its worker for their contribution in producing an output. The amount of wages is usually followed by an agreement in a contract, and there are two types of wages, which is nominal wages and real wages. For nominal wages, is the amount of money workers get, usually in a current value like USD and Ringgit Malaysia, and it's not considering the change in the cost of living or inflation. For example, if someone gets 2,000 in a month, then that is their normal wage, but the amount did not determine how much they can buy with that money. And for real wage is the amount of good and service that can be bought with a certain amount of money. For example, when the price increase due to inflation, the purchasing power will get lower, and it means that the nominal wage stay while the real wage will get lower. For determination of demand, the first is firm demand curve. Firm demand curve is also known as marginal revenue product curve, which is the curve goes downward because of the law of diminishing marginal returns. According to the law of demand, the more workers is hired, the smaller the optional outputs from each new workers. On the other hand, when the wage rate get higher, the lower the quality of labor. Demand curve, it shows the relationship between wage rate and the quantity of labor determined by the industry, which cause an inverse relationship. Determination of equilibrium wage. It explains the more depth of market equilibrium. Market equilibrium is when the quantity of demand and the quantity of supply are equal, and the wage rate is determined by the market's demand curve intersect with market supply curve, which for a labor and the supply curve is downward sloping, which indicates that the firm demand less labor when the wage rate is high. On the other hand, the supply curve is upward sloping, showing that more labor is supplied as the wage rate increases.
Rent is the payment for the use of land. According to David Ricardo, rent exists because land is a fixed supply, so it different from other factors of productions. Next is modern theory of rent, was developed by economists like YASMIN. This theory says that rent is not only applied to land but also applied to labor, capital, and also other limited resources. When supply is limited but demand is high, rent will occur. For the determinations of rent, when rent increase, the demand will decrease, but when rent decrease, the demand will increase. When rent increase, more people can afford to rent because they tend to look for cheaper options. While when rent decrease, they are more afford to rent because it is more affordable and also can reduce their monthly spending. Lastly is the economic rent. Economic rent is the extra income earned above the next best alternative, also known as transfer earning. It usually happens when a resource is used more efficiently and give better returns. Profit is the amount of money a business keeps after paying all its costs. There are two types of profit, which is normal profit and supernormal profit. For normal profit, this is the minimum profit that business need to survive. It happens when total revenue is equal to total cost. Supernormal profit, this is when a business earns more than normal profit. It means total revenue higher than total cost. I will explain about interest, which is the cost of borrowing money or reward for saving money. There are three types of interest, which is the nominal interest, real interest, and effective interest. For nominal interest, this is the basic interest, which is does not include the inflation. For example, if you save 1,000 ringgit and at 5% per year, you will get 50 ringgit. That is the nominal rate. For real interest, this is the actual total interest earned after removing inflation. For example, if the nominal rate is 5% and the inflation is 2%, so the real rate is 3%. Formula for the real rate is nominal rate minus with the inflation rate. Next is effective interest. Effective interest is the actual total interest earned when it is compounded. For example, if bank give you 5% yearly but compound it monthly, the total amount earned will be slightly more than 5%.
Concerns about consumer welfare and income inequality can lead to economic recession if left unaddressed. Governments can use fiscal policy to help by implementing progressive taxes, which requires high earners to pay more taxes, reducing income gaps. Subsidies on essential goods and price control can ensure basic needs remain affordable, promoting wage fairness, rent control, and profit-sharing company can reduce inequality and also help motivate workers. The Nordic countries like Sweden, Denmark, and Norway successfully using these strategies by combining progressive taxes and strong social services like free healthcare and education, creating a fairer and more balanced society. Ahead, with better information and advanced technology, we can understand consumer behavior and economic distribution even more. By promoting fair wages, education, and support for small businesses, we can ensure a stronger and balanced economy that benefits everyone.